to the Wellie, a Check Please fan podcast. This is month 3 of the Wellie, and today we will be focusing on mental health. We're going to give you some fandom updates and talk through some of the struggles our beloved hockey children have. And since we didn't in the first episode, we'll sort Jack and Biddy into their Hogwarts houses. We'll give you our Fic Recs, give you an update on real hockey, and our recipe. So let's meet the Wellie team. This month, everyone is going to tell you their favorite food and whether they are Team Roaches or Team Attic. Take it away.
Hi, I'm Ondine. My Tumblr name, though, is actually, I always say Mahon's Ondine. And my favorite food, I was not prepared for this. This is too hard. I'm just going to go with Indian food as a class of foods because it's all delicious. When it comes to Team Attic versus Team Roaches, Team Attic all the way. All the way.
Hi, I'm Kirsten. You can find my Check Please blog at Maple Apple Pie. My favorite food, I also was not prepared for this, even though I definitely knew we were doing this. I'm going to go with green beans because I'm weird and I like vegetables a lot. And Team Attic versus Roaches, I'm also Team Attic, which is weird because I usually like to be prepared and, known evil versus unknown evil. Theoretically, I should be Team Roaches, but they're terrifying and you're wrong if you pick Roaches.
Hey team, it's Ellie. On Tumblr, I am Hearts and Flowers Always, because Hearts and Flowers always and forever. Also because Hearts and Flowers and Bows was too long and they wouldn't let me have it. So, my favorite food is either pizza or burritos, but also Indian food. I am the jerk that made everyone say their favorite food, so so I'm sorry, all of you. Yeah, I know.
Sorry. You're not forgiven.
Whatever. You guys think I'm great.
We love you anyway, Ellie.
Yeah, you're all right.
You won't like me much after I tell you. I'm for sure Team Roaches, guys.
No.
It's over.
Okay, if the person in your... Okay, you guys are forgetting that the person in your attic has a 50-50 chance of being menfolk, and menfolk are terrifying. Sorry, husband.
True.
So that's what I'm going with. Roaches I can handle. Roaches are just roaches. They're not going to do anything to me. So, that's me. Shit. Ellie.
Okay, I'm Steph, and on Tumblr, I'm Steffi Senpai. Also, I hate you, Ellie, because I can't pick a food, so I'm also going to go with the class and Japanese food.
I'm terrible.
And then I'm Team Attic, because roaches are disgusting. So, yeah.
You guys are all just so trusting of humankind. I don't understand.
Oh no, I will fight a
it's
man.
terrifying. But as a child, I watched that X-Files episode with the roaches, and I had nightmares for weeks. Literally every night for weeks and weeks. So I can't do roaches. I can't.
Well, I don't know. Roaches. I'm into it. I'm not into it, but I would rather have a roach than a person.
Wow.
This is a new side of you I've never seen before.
Remember that one episode where Ellie told us she's into roaches? Yeah, I remember that. That was the last episode I listened to, said all of our followers.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. Because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was...
So, we thought that we should probably do a little fandom news update at the beginning of our episodes when we have news to update you with. So, first off, we're hoping for more updates soon. I think it was so there is a rumor that we will be getting updates in September. I am hoping for them. I know we all are. And then I had a couple other things I want to talk about. First, we've got a bunch of different fests and stuff going on right now. I just discovered one yesterday, the PB&J Epifest, where people are putting prompts up on AO3 with the PB&J ship, so Parse, Biddy, and Jack. And they're putting up their song prompts. And people are going to choose them and write us so many PB&J fics, and I'm very excited for that. And then the second thing that I'm aware of that's going on is the Check Please Big Bang, which, if for anybody who doesn't know what a Big Bang is, what happens is you have writers and you have artists, and the writers will write a fic and post either a piece of a fic or the whole fic, but I believe this time they're doing just summaries, and then artists are going to pick them, and they're going to draw some fan art based on those stories. So that's really exciting. And I know there are a lot of people signed up for it. I know there are a lot of writers signed up for it. I think they might be needing a few more artists. So if you are an artist, go check it out.
Steph.
Steph.
That sounds really cool, honestly.
It's very cool. They also do sometimes, I don't think there's one going on right now, but sometimes they do reverse bangs where you'll have the art first and then people will write a fic based on the art, which is also fantastic. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was that I went to a meetup. I think it was last weekend. I guess it was last weekend. It was the OMG CP New York meetup. And we met in Bryant Park, and we had so much sugar and so much laughter, and it was just fantastic. You can go on Tumblr and you can find a bunch of posts about it. I'll put a link in the show notes. And we had trivia and music, and people made like themed goodie bags, and it was just adorable and wonderful, and everybody was so lovely. And I know that there's going to be another meetup, probably in a month-ish time, hopefully in September or October. So if you're in the New York area, you should definitely come and hang out with us. We had a really great time.
Or if you live in the frozen north and want to come and see me, please feel free to drive for several hours into the middle of nowhere.
We had somebody come from D.C. on the train to come to the meetup. We did, and it was wonderful. And then we also had someone who was in the U.S. from Sweden on a trip, and she extended her time in New York by 2 days. She was supposed to go to another place in the U.S., and she extended her New York time by 2 days so she could come to the meetup. So,
shout out to that person.
Right?
Hardcore.
Fantastic. She was lovely, and I hope she gets to come back to the next one because she was saying that she might be able to. So you should...
Fantastic.
You guys should all come hang out with us. See, if you can fly from Sweden for a meetup, surely you can fly from wherever, right?
Sure.
Like, I mean, you know, the Arctic Circle or something.
If you have money.
Oh,
Well,
that's fair point.
We'll see. I have more money than I have PTO, but #finance. That is fantastic. Thank you for that update, Ondine, and we are all jealous of the camaraderie and times you got to have with our fellow Wellies. So,
that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence.
So as Steph said earlier, our episode this month is focused on mental health and OMGCP. And before we get into that, we do want to do a little disclaimer. Mental health is an extremely personal topic. And while all of us have had our own experiences with different mental health, both all ourselves and our families, mental health is different for everybody. And there are some things that might be triggering in this episode, and we really want you to think of your safety first. This is maybe not your best episode to listen to if you're not in a good place. we are going to do our best to keep it really light. And we are, of course, talking about Check Please, which is a very wonderful, of course, and delightful comic, but also does go into some dark themes. So the other important thing to say is that while some of us do have some mental health training and some disability training and things of that nature, none of us are licensed psychiatrists or psychologists. None of this should be considered advice. And none of it should replace your own feelings or experiences. So just keep your hearts open and take care of yourselves as you listen to our mental health episode, Wellies.
And I think it's also important to say if you're feeling like you're having trouble dealing with things, talk to someone. And talk to a mental health professional. I mean, we can help, your friends on Tumblr can help, but really there's no substitute for talking to someone who really knows what they're talking about.
Well said. Well said. And we're happy to help you find resources.
Absolutely.
So
maybe show notes.
Yes, maybe
probably
the show notes.
It's best.
Right? Fantastic.
Yay.
So, I think it's time, and we'll start at the very beginning, which is a very good place to start.
When you read, you begin with
ABC. Okay, and then we didn't do the entire Sound of Music on our podcast.
But we thought about it.
Last time we did a West Side Story, so like, is the Sound of Music what we're doing this time?
Oh my gosh, now what about like Jack and Parse singing 16 going on 17?
Oh.
That's so cute.
Oh, Jack singing something good to Biddy.
Oh my god. I have chills.
I'm like sobbing over here. Okay.
Okay, we have a lot of feelings, guys.
We have a lot of feelings already. We haven't even started.
In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone.
Okay, so Jack has a number of struggles that were introduced to fairly early on in the comic with the Hockey Prince. We find out that he's had anxiety since he was a child. We find out that he's had an overdose and an addiction. So there's a lot going on with Jack right from the start. The other thing we want to say, and teammates, if someone else wants to chime in on this, one of the very most popular headcanons in our fandom is that Jack is on the autism spectrum. And while that is a magical headcanon to have, and I fully support it a bajillion %, none of us here at the Wellie know enough about it to feel like it's okay for us to talk about it. And we've been approached by some other folks in the fandom who said they would enjoy coming on to talk about the experience of having Asperger's. And so we're going to wait on talking about Jack being on the spectrum.
But we just didn't want to not mention it.
Yes, we wanted to make sure everybody's voice is getting heard properly. So being inclusive in this case means for us to step aside and let people with that actual experience talk.
So we'll work on that for a later episode, certainly.
That said, Jack's anxiety, ready and go.
Okay, so I think that part of the reason why I like Jack so much, honestly, is his anxiety, not only because I have anxiety and I relate to him as a person, but like it kind of shapes him away from being this like super skilled, buff, muscular, love interest jock kind of guy. And it gives him this side that makes him kind of unconventional and kind of not nice sometimes. I mean, you see that some of his symptoms result in him kind of being a jerk, kind of shutting himself off from people and being self-focused in a way that you kind of have to be when you're looking out for yourself sometimes. And I think it's part of what makes him a really interesting character.
I think that it's great that you mention the fact that he is sort of, at first glance, a stereotypical love interest. You know, he is very sporty and he's smart and he's beautiful, and I like that we have this leading man and that he has mental health issues, that that she's given this character who, there's so many people that people admire who are like that, who are that kind of leading man kind of character person, and it's really wonderful to see someone like that dealing with things that, you know, a lot of people who aren't like that also deal with, that they're people too. So I appreciate that.
I think a lot of what it does is normalizes the experience of having really bad anxiety or struggling with generalized anxiety disorder. I also enjoy the way that we're introduced to Jack's anxiety, which is in the form of the story of the hockey prince, which, you know, we think a lot about anxiety as an adult problem, and we don't think too much about children having anxiety. But, you know, when you read through the Hockey Prince, it's clear that Jack has struggled with this since he was very, very small. And most people do start struggling with it when they're very, very small. I had my first panic attack in the 8th grade. Like, this is... And if I had known that was what was happening, I think it would have turned out a lot different and my life would have looked different. So I just really appreciated Ngozi going there with us and telling us this has been a lifelong struggle for Jack. And I also appreciate the idea that we've gotten into in the fandom of this being a lifelong struggle for Jack forever.
Yes. Yes. He doesn't meet Biddy and fall in love and then, oh, anxiety is cured. Because that's not what happens.
Right? You can't love someone's anxiety away. Like, that's not.
You can't love someone's you can't love someone's mental health disorders away at all.
Yeah.
There are many things having loved ones can do for you, which, you know, helping with your coping mechanisms and being a comfort to you when things are especially bad. But, you know, the struggle is still going to be there, whether you're in love or not. And I feel I've really appreciated in this fandom that people seem to understand that and recognize it. And I don't see a lot of fics that end with something like, and Jack never had to take a Xanax again. Like, and they ride off into the sunset on a Zamboni.
I mean, if he overdosed on them, he probably doesn't take those. But
yeah, he probably doesn't get any more benzos at all. But
yeah,
but maybe he does. Honestly, I don't know. It's because we don't actually know if Jack. We know that he overdosed on pills, or that's what's implied by the Hockey Prince, because we see the prescription bottle on the floor and we see his limp hand. But in Biddy's tweets, it's mentioned several times that people think that he had a cocaine problem. And whether or not they're correct, there's a reason Ngozi put cocaine into the tweets more than once. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, it shows that no one knows. Jack hasn't been open without it, so we don't have any way to know what it was, really.
Well, there's this incredible stigma that surrounds mental health in this country, and it is so detrimental to actually solving the problem. You know, like you can't fix something, or like, you know, make it not. You can't fix it anyway because it's a disease. You know, it doesn't have a cure. It has treatment. But you can't treat it if you can't talk about it. You know?
Right. And if we continue to pretend that mental health stuff doesn't exist, well...
So you mentioned one thing in particular that I wanted to touch on. You were saying that when you had your first panic attack, you were in 8th grade, and that, you know, you had no idea what was going on. I was lucky enough.
They literally called an ambulance. Because they thought something was wrong with my heart or something. Great.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to have my first panic attack in 10th grade, and my father was there. And my mother also has panic attacks. So he knew exactly what was going on. And it was such a relief. Because, I mean, I freaked out, and I sort of called him into the room as best as I could. And he explained to me what was going on after basically looking at me for like 30 seconds. He's like, oh, you're having a panic attack. It's okay. You're not dying. Take some time, breathe, lay down, like, it'll be okay. And that, I was so, so lucky that I had that experience. And if we talked about it, maybe more people would get to have that experience instead of, I don't know, people calling an ambulance on you, for example. Just as an idea.
Such a special time in my middle school.
Right? Oh, God.
Someone would just given me some Lexapro. Man, that's my favorite thing in the world.
Right. But, I was the same way. No, you're totally right, Ondine, that, I had my first panic attack when I was 4, which is ridiculously young.
God.
And mine don't present so much with, the heart racing. I mean, they do, but, my main response is that I get, violently ill, and I get really nauseous, and I start shaking really bad.
Oh,
and,
Kirsten, I want to, hug you.
Oh. So, now that I'm a grown woman, I know how to handle them. But, when you're 4, you just think you're dying, and your parents just think you're dying. And it literally took me, a solid 10 years for anyone to be like, I wonder if she has anxiety disorder,
God.
And that shouldn't happen to kids.
No.
Yeah, that must have been so scary.
Yeah, but, eventually it's just, life. Which is somehow even worse that you normalize it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had I guess I had 2 panic attacks in a row last week. One at work, and then the next morning I was basically about to leave.
An aftershock panic attack?
I don't even know what it. So sometimes you can have triggers, and I happen to have triggers with heat changes, temperature changes. I don't know if it's actually because of my body or if it's because it's something that I have created in my head, because I had my first panic attack in a very hot shower and the heat made me, I don't know. I always associated with that, but I had 2 in a row, and I was like, oh, this is the thing that's happening right now. But it was not the same sort of terror that I felt in the first ones, because I knew that it was going to end. And I knew that there was, that there were ways that it was going to get better, and, I probably wouldn't have another one for another 6 months or, 6 hours, but whatever.
And I think about Jack, especially 16, 17, 18-year-old Jack, and the way his anxiety, the way I headcanon his anxiety working is just push, 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 win, 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 score, score, score. And, needs to get the Memorial Cup, needs to get drafted number 1, needs to win a Stanley Cup, needs to be a captain of an NHL team. For Jack, in Jack's mind, I feel like there's no end. Even if he makes it through this panic attack, he's just treading water. He just has so much pressure and such high expectations for himself that I just can't I just have trouble figuring out how Jack got himself out of those panic attacks when he was a kid, when he was in the queue.
I think we know.
Ah, yes. Xanax and Kent Parson. And booze and perhaps cocaine? We're not really sure.
Yeah. But, I mean, a lot of people use substances to self-medicate.
Yes. And mental health and substance abuse are so intertwined.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be, although I think it's hard for me to think of Jack as someone who uses illegal drugs, it also is unsurprising that he would have to resort to that. And it's also unsurprising considering I don't know how much supervision he and his
Probably not a lot. He was billet, right?
Yeah, I believe they lived with billet families. I don't know where I read that or if that's canon, but I know that the kids in the junior league in my hometown live with billet families. Although I can picture billet families being really, like, you have a curfew and, I don't know, I feel like they could go either way.
I always pictured it as Jack's family being the billet family. And Parse is, like, billeting with them.
Oh, so you, like, picture Parse living with Bob and Alicia?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I've never thought of that.
We know which team they were with, right?
I think there's a headcanon for which team they were with. It's the Ocean somethings?
Rimouski.
I have no idea.
If I'm not mistaken, it is Rimouski, if that's how you say it.
I want to Google it. Steph, you're usually the one I turn to for all this hockey stuff.
I don't know too much about like non-NHL stuff, honestly.
The junior league stuff. Anyway, it doesn't matter what it was called, but that's an interesting idea that they were with Bob and Alicia.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
Yeah, I've never thought of that. Oh man, how heartbreaking is that?
You read my Ken Parson fic though. It happens in that one.
I did. Does it? But I think I read that one before we met.
Oh, well. So, just ignored it.
No, I didn't ignore it. It just was like, okay, I've read like 2,000 Check Please fan fictions.
Not 2,800? Not all of them?
I haven't read literally all of them, but I'm pretty sure I've read most of them.
Me too.
Anyway.
But yeah, even if Jack was living with his parents, like his dad is still an NHL player, so I'm sure he wasn't around 100% of the time.
Yeah, and Alicia is is a model or an actress, and someone has a great headcanon that she's in charge of the charity that they obviously have. So
you can play?
No. Of like the Bob Zimmerman Foundation or something. Like the made up Zimmerman Foundation that she's in charge of spending Bob's hockey money for good things.
I don't actually think that Bob would have been gone for most of his childhood because now this was a question that came up at the OMG CP meetup. And it was, how old is Bob Zimmerman? And he was older than I thought he was. He was in his 50s. So if he's in his 50s when Jack is in his mid-20s, people don't really play professional hockey past 40, like at all.
Oh, no, they don't.
That's true.
So he must have been around for, maybe not the earliest years of Jack's childhood, but certainly all of his teenage years.
Yeah, that's true. But the weird thing about this comic for me is that Bob and Alicia are shown as really supportive parents, and even when Jack is having that conversation with his dad in French, he's like, "Dad, I want you to come to my game. You are not the cause of my anxiety. I'm gonna have anxiety either way." Yeah, I feel like, well, we never see them except for Parents' Week, and they're filthy rich and presumably retired. So
we see them at graduation.
We see them at Parents' Week and graduation, and Alicia doesn't even come to Parents' Week. And they're not at home opener, which is so bizarre to me.
Alicia does show up on campus at some point, though. There's something in Biddy's tweets about knocking on the door and opening it up and it being Alicia Zimmerman.
When she comes to pick Jack up to go apartment hunting.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yes. So they're there but not there. But I wonder if that's just because this is a fictional thing. It's kind of like Rachel Berry's dads were never at any of the Glee Club things, even though we know they're obsessed with her. Do you know what I mean?
I think it is, I mean, maybe it's that, but also he seemed like the perfect child. And he was doing everything. And I assume that they showed up when it was really important, if they could. But he looked like the model child. And Jack would have said, "Oh, no, it's fine. You don't have to come."
Oh, yeah. Jack strikes me as a child, as many people / kids who struggle with anxiety do, come across as older than they are. And so it wouldn't be, I guess, too surprising for them to be like, "Oh, Jack's fine on his own. He's careful and thoughtful and he'll be fine."
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what I assumed. Possibly partly because that's sort of how my parents were. They always sort of just assumed that I was okay and just doing whatever when I was a teenager. And I was like, no, I'm really struggling, but I also don't want to talk to you about it. But you guys don't notice. Because I was getting good grades and going to school and not skipping school and doing well on the speech team. And, it looked like I was fine. So they just assumed and, didn't.
There's a big difference between being fine. Well, we'll talk about this when we get to Ransom, but Ransom has serious anxiety, whereas Holster tells us he's a delicate coral reef. He's a frat bro. He's on the hockey team. He becomes a captain of the hockey team. He's got a 4.0. He's going to go to medical school. But he also struggles with anxiety probably as much as Jack does.
I think he has some other things, but let's talk about that then.
Yeah, we'll get there when we get there.
But along those lines of, like, his parents maybe not being as active, there's this thing with anxiety that I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen in yourselves and in others that, in a way that I think a lot of us experience, I feel like Jack's experience with anxiety was like, everything's fine, you're good, no one can tell, and then all of a sudden everything goes terrible. Like, the outward appearance is always good, no one can tell anything's wrong, but when things go bad, they go, like, capital B bad, and they go bad quick. And I feel like that's kind of what happened to Jack with the overdose and everything.
Bad with, like, 4 Ds and every other letter capitalized.
Right.
Bad. Yeah, I think that's part of having anxiety, or at least for me, it's part of having generalized anxiety disorder. You can keep things in and keep it together, and part of the struggle is that you have to keep things in and keep it together. Like, I need to put on nice clothes and show up at the office at 8 o'clock every morning, and I need to sit across from people and look and feel confident and do all of these things. And if at any time I look like I'm having a total meltdown, then a meltdown will ensue. You know what I mean? Part of anxiety is the anxiety of hiding your anxiety.
Oh, I think a healthy part of having anxiety then is knowing when you can let some of that out too, and when you reach the point where you don't have an outlet for all of those terrible feelings that you kind of have to keep inside to fit in with society. You have what happened to Jack, and maybe not on that scale, and maybe not in that same way, but you can't just hold it in. It's going to explode or it's going to implode, but it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, and, for Jack, we see more of an implosion than an explosion, where it just comes down to he has to medicate himself too much, whether that's the pills or the potential drinking or the potential drugs, whatever it ended up actually being. And by the way, I really want to know, Ngozi, if you do listen to our podcast.
Oh my God.
Right? Can you imagine?
I just imagine her sitting at home like, they've got it all wrong. Except for that stuff about Ken Parson.
I know, right? She has said that she likes him as a character.
Right. So,
fight. Undine, I will fight for our son, just like I said last episode, until I don't have any frickin' teeth.
You don't need those teeth.
Smoothies! That's right. This
Anyway.
Hufflepuff fight. Anyway, moving forward.
We would really like to know, Ngozi, what he overdosed on.
We just need to know more about those 37 days between...
34 days.
34.
Should know this.
I struggle with some number of things. 34 days between...
We talked about this yesterday.
Shh. Hush, 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 dear.
Okay.
Hush. Okay. What words are they saying? Oh, Ngozi, we want to know about those 34 days between the Memorial Cup and the draft. We do. I want to know, like, theoretically that should have been summer vacation for Jacques. Why, at the end of that, is Jack's implosion? How? I want to know. Also, we'll probably just write a fan fiction if you don't tell us.
Probably.
We already started a fan fiction, so maybe tell us.
So I did want to say one thing. I don't know if this is the place to say it or time to say it. I actually don't have diagnosed anxiety. I mean, I clearly have some anxiety symptoms and I have panic attacks, but I actually have major depression. So, I mean, that tends to pattern with some similar symptoms to anxiety in some situations. But I think it's valuable to say that a lot of these disorders have different struggles, but similar situations. And I think a lot of the overall things that we're saying really do apply to a lot of them. Like, it does, you can live with it, you can find ways to cope, and you can survive, but you also never get rid of it. You can't just fall in love with somebody and suddenly not be depressed any more than you can fall in love with somebody and not have anxiety anymore. So I just wanted to make sure that we included a little bit about that, even though mostly this comic has a lot more anxiety-ridden people than depressed people, I think. Except for Kent Parson.
Kenny!
Who's sitting in his room crying to Taylor Swift.
That's Brittany, dear. That's Brittany, Jack.
Thanks, Biddy.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
I don't remember
You just
what song-
literally did the Jack thing where you just said it was Taylor Swift.
I don't know. What song is it?
I'm pretty sure it's Lucky by Britney Spears.
It is Lucky by Britney Spears,
I
yes.
that song. I was like, I was...
I so headcanon Parse and Britney as friends because Britney currently is doing a show in Las Vegas.
Mhm.
So she lives in Las Vegas. And so, can you imagine? Kent and
Oh my
Britney
god,
are
he
so...
babysits for her kids.
That'd be beautiful.
It's a deep headcanon that I have.
Oh, this is the best headcanon of the day. It's the
We've had
best
some pretty
thing
good
that's
ones
happened
already,
today.
so that's
We
high
have.
praise. High praise.
Mm-hmm. This is great. I love it. Anyway, so serious note. Over, I guess.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say that like I've never been diagnosed with anything, but I feel like I have like mild depression and some anxiety, but I don't know. Like I might have had a panic attack before, but at the same time, I don't really know. So yeah, that's just my disclaimer.
And being neurotypical doesn't make it less important or make your feelings less important or your worries or your anxieties less important.
Of
So
course.
our neurotypical folk out there who are having a bad day, we still love you. You're still able to, your feelings are still valid. You're allowed to be depressed.
I think the most important thing that anyone has ever told me with regards to your feelings and your own experiences is that your experiences are valid and they count, and it does not matter what someone else is experiencing. What they experience doesn't impact the validity or strength of your experience. Just because you're having a bad day that's not quite as bad as somebody in Libya, it does not mean that your bad day isn't bad, that you can't feel that you had a bad day.
Yeah, there's I went to therapy school. I was a therapist for several years before I decided I didn't want to be a therapist anymore. And one of the things that they did not teach us in therapy school, but I used a lot with my clients, or had to help stop myself from using with my clients, was nothing helpful ever starts with "at least you're blah." At least it's blah. At least it's not this. At least you're not that. At least. None of those things are
only minorly whatever.
right. Like, at least I'm able to have a job. At least I'm healthy. At least none of that. And I think this is the same thing that's true for Jack. We could look at him as a character and say, Jack is really handsome. Jack is wealthy. Jack honestly could choose to not work a day in his life, probably. But that's not who Jack is. Even though he's got all these struggles, Jack tries so hard. Jack.
Our other son.
We have too many sons on
So
team.
many sons. Also,
When did we adopt all
Chowder?
We have a lot of children and a podcast. This is intense, guys.
So, do we have some more stuff we want to talk about with regards to Jack?
There was one other thing that I wanted to mention, just kind of because it makes me happy again, the way this is portrayed, that I feel like amongst the team, Jack's anxiety and his mental health issues are pretty well known. I mean, not everyone may know like the extent of what it is, but what makes me really happy too is that you see the team still respecting him, and not just respecting him, but like really looking for his praise and looking to look up to him because he's such a good captain and he has all these skills, and they recognize that, I don't know, you see a lot of times that having mental health issues kind of invalidates your worth or your ability to do things, and this makes it very clear that no, everyone still respects the hell out of Jack. They still all unanimously elected him captain for his senior year, and it really shows the ways that he's finding success even as he's dealing with these problems instead of ignoring them, and that makes me really happy.
And, the other thing I love about it is they are very aware of his struggles, but they don't let him get away with shit either. Like, one of my favorite panels is Holster and Shitty explaining to Biddy, like, oh yeah, this is just preseason Jack. He'll return to regularly scheduled levels of bitchiness later. Like, he's just a bro to them. And even though he has all these struggles, and even though he had an overdose, and even though he's Jack Zimmerman, they really do treat him like a bro, which warms my heart.
They don't pathologize every single fucking thing that he does. Pardon my French, but really. I find that sometimes when you tell people that you have a mental health disorder, suddenly everything is, oh, it's because you're anxiety. Oh, it's because you're depression. Oh, it's because, you know what I mean? And I appreciate that they don't do that with Jack.
Right.
Yes.
So, excellent point, Kirsten.
That was...
a bunch of points to Ravenclaw.
Yay, Ravenclaw.
Woo! Yay!
Hooray!
Beneath the halo of a street lamp, I turn my collar to the cold.
All right, shall we move on and talk about our soft, precious, pie-baking Biddy dear?
Yes, Resident Biddy. Do you have anything to say?
Just because my soul is made out of Eric Richard Biddle. I will say that I think the biggest struggle that we see Biddy having, I really relate to Biddy in a ton of ways, and I guess I'm just gonna put my whole mental health life out on a limb in this podcast and say that I understand Biddy's got some anxiety regarding coming out, and I came out of the closet at a very young age and was bullied at school because I came out of the closet in 8th grade, which, spoiler alert, that's a bad idea because 8th graders don't understand what bisexuality is. Yeah, don't do.
Right.
Here's a hint, and they sure didn't in $2001, let me tell you, or whatever the heck year it was.
Also not in, the Midwest.
Yeah, I grew up in the Midwest.
Yeah.
I grew up in a large city in the Midwest, but still. So I came out very young and experienced bullying based on my sexual orientation. And I also struggled for a long time in my adult life with PTSD from a very bad relationship. So I feel like I'm with Biddy in so many ways. I'm like, oh, Bits, I know what it's like to completely freeze up because you've had bad experiences and you can't really express them to people. Now, I've never fainted in the middle of an ice rink, but I just feel like Biddy and I are on the same level in a lot of ways. So that's what I'm saying. I think Biddy struggles with is some anxiety and PTSD from his bullying experiences as a child.
Yes. I agree with you. I think that's a really... I think it's pretty clear in the comic that he's seen some shit, okay? And he has a lot of very real feelings. And he's...
He, legitimately thought Shitty was going to beat him up when he came out to him.
Yeah. And you don't think that somebody's going to beat you up when you come out unless somebody's beating you up when you come out. Or because of whatever. Because they think that you're out or something. You know what I mean?
Or threatened to beat you up. Or, for example, locked you in a utility closet overnight as a preteen.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
We hear about this in sort of a throwaway comment. But I think that's sort of indicative of how Biddy wants to feel about it. That he has to say it in sort of a throwaway way because otherwise it'll mean too much and it already is so painful for him. I don't know. That's how I interpret that experience.
No, yeah, that's how I read it too.
Yeah, I think he's really flippant about a lot of things that really bother him, and it's kind of how he copes, but it's also kind of how he flies under the radar with other people sometimes with his anxiety.
The other really important thing about Biddy's anxiety that I think is so important that we talk about is Biddy's anxiety and his procrastination together. Because I think there's a misunderstanding about perfectionism and anxiety that folks who are perfectionistic are really neat and really clean and have everything done on time. And I know when the reality,
Yeah.
shall we all have a good laugh about this?
Right.
I almost didn't graduate high school because I didn't turn in a paper that I wasn't satisfied with.
Right. There's been many times where I haven't started a project because I feel uncertain about one tiny piece of it and I can't make myself do it. And honestly, for me, medication is the thing that helps me get through the procrastination part of my anxiety. But I definitely see that for Biddy, that, he's not failing any of his classes that we are aware of, but he's definitely not doing super well, evidenced by the fact that he baked 17 pies last September.
Right, and I think for him, baking serves kind of this dual purpose where it's a way for him to not do his work and instead engage in this kind of self-soothing behavior without the aid of medication, that he can do this thing that calms him over and over and over again to the point where he doesn't do his work. But it also, and this is totally me projecting here, gonna level with you, it provides him of a measure of self-worth, I think, because he's doing this for other people. He's giving his treats to other people. People respect him because of it, and even if he's not doing his homework or what he's supposed to be doing, everyone loves him and they love his pies and his baked goods.
Oh, yeah.
And he can feel some satisfaction from that too.
Yeah, so even if he's not succeeding at what he's supposed to be succeeding at, he's created something. And, I think we could have a really interesting argument about whether Biddy's baking habit is a healthy coping mechanism or not, since it is also his most common procrastination tool. I think it's kind of like six of
It's a lot
one
healthier than
the other.
it could be.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as coping mechanisms go, like high five.
9-1. Kirsten, what you said about him feeling like he gets some sort of self-worth out of the baking, I've never thought about it that way, and it's wonderful, and it just makes me imagine him in high school going to club meetings and bringing the snacks so that, like, he gets invited back.
Right? Or like going to visit his parents' friends and being fawned over because he's bringing food and he's not getting that from his peers, but he's getting it from adults. That's my headcanon, and it's terrible and it makes me sad. But
Oh, now I'm going to cry.
I know, I'm sorry.
Poor Bits.
What have you done?
But I think that's, he learns that he can have that. He probably learned that at a young age, that baking makes people happy. And if he can make people happy, then maybe things aren't so bad. And, I think in general, I think Biddy does struggle with some PTSD and some anxiety. But I think in general, Biddy does pretty well. And I don't know that Biddy, besides the PTSD, I think his PTSD is diagnosable, but I don't know that his anxiety would be at a level that would be diagnosable. Now, I learned
Situational anxiety more than he has.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, normally you would diagnose, correct me if I'm wrong, but you would diagnose generalized anxiety disorder if it's something that is like part of your makeup, not necessarily something that you had developed.
So there's a big difference between having generalized anxiety disorder and having what's called an adjustment disorder, or what was called an adjustment disorder in the DSM-4 text revision, which is what I learned on when I was in graduate school. So there is a new version of the DSM out now that I am not as familiar with as I was with the DSM-4, just to add another disclaimer for you, Wellies. But yes, there's adjustment disorders.
So, like, one thing I really want to see more focus on, just because I'm curious, is, I mean, I don't want the big, I'm in the closet coming out to my parents drama to be like a super main focus, because I hate to see all of that angst. But I am really curious because you see in the visit day episode in the first year that we see is that Biddy says, well, my mom's my best friend, but blah, 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 blah. And like, okay, at the risk of, like Ellie here, kind of self-disclosing all of my crap, I'm bisexual. I'm out to my friends and now a bunch of people on the internet. So,
woo, out on the internet.
Woo! But I'm not out to my parents. Because I'm terrified. But at the same time, my mom is my best friend. I mean, hands down, we talked for like an hour today. We talk for like an hour every day, no matter what, And this is the one secret I've kept from her my entire life. And it's horrible and terrible. And I know someday I'm going to break down and do it because I know in my heart it won't wreck our relationship, but I'm still terrified. Blah, 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 blah. Personal stuff. I feel like Biddy's got to be there too. I mean, if he's calling his mom his best friend, and for all the issues he may have with Coach, I can't imagine what it's like, especially when you're out to other people, still having to keep that part of yourself. It sucks.
Yes,
I do know. I take it back. I do know exactly, and it sucks.
I just wanted to say that I can't wait until his issue with like physicality is explored more. I can't wait until that's actually talked about in the comic.
I'm really looking forward to them discussing Jack and Biddy's sex life. I mean, I understand that in the main comic it probably won't be like explicit, but I'm really looking forward to talking about how being touched being a problem for him affects how they deal with that.
I think, especially since I headcanon Biddy as being having no sexual experience. Although I do kind of want to write a fic, and I've talked to Undine about this, a fic where Biddy goes a little bit bonkers on Grindr his freshman year.
I've seen so many posts about that, and it's the best thing ever. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I really would love to write a fic about Biddy just like hooking up, getting out there, boy. But I don't think he actually did that because he was too afraid his freshman year, and then his sophomore year he started falling in love with Jack, and I really don't think that's what actually happened, even though I would support you. Bits, I would support it so much.
When my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light, it split the night.
Okay, team, so since this has been a pretty heavy episode and you've listened to us talk a lot about our own issues, so thanks for that. Thank you for being supportive. We want to bring you something fun, which is us talking about what Hogwarts Houses Biddy and Jack should be in.
Because we haven't sorted them yet.
Because we haven't sorted them because we forgot to do it in the first episode. So let's just go down the line and remind everybody what our house loyalties are. Starting with myself, I can't digest lactose, and I'm a Hufflepuff. Just kidding.
Hufflepuffs are particularly good finders.
Just kidding. I actually am not lactose intolerant, but I am afraid of sheets.
Okay, I'm Undine and I'm a Slytherin. As I giggle.
I'm Steph, and I am also a Slytherin.
And I'm Kirsten, and I'm a Ravenclaw. And if you could see me, I'm in a room full of books, and I'm a huge stereotype right now. So, yeah.
I'm in a room full of tchotchkes, and I literally have, like, heart-shaped things in a Pusheen calendar surrounding me.
Beautiful.
It is beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and say, as a Hufflepuff, I want them both in my house. I say both of them are Hufflepuffs.
I'm totally sold on Biddy.
Same.
Jack, I don't know. Like, for me, it was between Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw.
I say Biddy's a Hufflepuff and Jack's a Ravenclaw.
Yeah, it's kind of what I'm sitting at right now.
See, I see Jack as a Hufflepuff and Biddy as a Slytherin, honestly.
And I was going to say that if I have any other feelings, I was going to say the opposite of that is Jack is a Slytherin and Biddy is a Hufflepuff.
Basically, Biddy is a Hufflepuff for you.
Yes, well, Biddy, my soul is made out of Biddy. I feel so close to him as a character, so I can't help but feel like Biddy's a Hufflepuff. But I also feel like Jack is either a Hufflepuff or a Slytherin. I don't see him as a Ravenclaw, because even though he's a nerdy little ding-dong, like, I just don't see him being that wise or that into, like, the thirst for knowledge.
Dude, he went to college when he so did not need to go to college. And he got a history degree.
Yeah,
he was like, I want to learn this shit.
Okay, but I feel like Jack went to college to have an experience and to be away from professional hockey and all of that. I feel, okay, here's why I think this. Because if Jack was really so interested in doing, he would have done better in school, and we see him on graduation day, he's wearing all these stoles, and Jack's just wearing his graduation gown. That means he probably graduated cum laude or lower, which, like, I can't imagine a Ravenclaw graduating without honors. Like, I just can't.
I mean, did we not discuss last episode that Ravenclaws don't necessarily care about school, they care about learning?
Yeah, I agree.
No.
You can't change your mind now.
Plus, I mean, like, I don't know if Jack would have had time to do all the stuff that like, shit he had.
Right, because he was the captain, and he was a first line, and he was, like...
doing important Jack Zimmerman stuff, like angrily making PB&J.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
It's serious business.
Moodily making a children's snack, I believe is how Biddy describes it in a tweet.
Just like slams the piece of bread down on the other. I'm picturing it now. It's beautiful. And
Oh,
jelly
it is.
jelly goes everywhere.
And Biddy's all, what are you doing with my kitchen? Like, Jack just glares at him. But I do also like the idea of Jack as a Hufflepuff because he just does not quit. He does not quit. And that's such a Hufflepuff thing.
But I don't think he doesn't quit because he refuses to quit. I think he quits because he can't feel like a failure.
Aw, Jock.
Which is part of why also, I guess that could go into Slytherin.
I feel like Slytherin, yeah. If he's not a Hufflepuff, he's a Slytherin.
But he's not willing to bend the rules.
Jack,
That's
you're
true.
sneaky. Ngozi, how dare you write these deep, nuanced characters?
I know, right?
Cruel.
So should we? I think we're all agreed that Biddy is pretty much a Hufflepuff, right?
I
Most
don't
likely
argue
he's a
Slytherin.
Slitherpuff.
A Slitherpuff.
I could see that.
But you know that
Yeah.
he would choose Hufflepuff,
Oh, he totally would.
which makes him a Hufflepuff because it only matters what you feel in your heart you want to be.
Yep, I think that's true. I think Bits is a Slitherpuff. I
That's
think
fair.
that the hat probably said you'd do well in Slytherin or Hufflepuff, and Biddy was like, "Oh my lord, I can't live in a dungeon. Can you even imagine?" And I hear the Hufflepuff house is right next to the kitchen, and yeah, no.
And then he
yes.
kept talking, and the hat is
And
yelling.
that was like, okay, so you're in Hufflepuff, go away.
and Biddy's like, "Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Hat." It was-
Oh my goodness.
You
Someone
come
needs to
back
draw
now,
this.
y'all.
Have you guys seen that post on Tumblr? And I feel bad because I don't know who did it. That's the picture of the Hogwarts alternate universe where Biddy's trying to feed the Sorting Hat a pie, and McGonagall's yelling at him.
No.
but that's excellent.
That is so something that would happen. But no, Professor, I promised I'd bring it.
That's wonderful. Yeah, so I think for sure Biddy maybe would have done well in Slytherin and still has some Slytherin tendencies. He is a Hufflepuff.
That's fair. I will agree to change my mind on that.
And I think maybe if the hat got on Jack's head and said, well, you're a Slytherin or a Ravenclaw, I think Jack would have picked Ravenclaw.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe? Or maybe he would have picked Slytherin. I don't know.
I can't imagine that he would have picked Slytherin because he has such... He cares so much about appearances.
Although, is there any argument for the fact that the hat always listens to you when you choose? I mean, I realize in Harry Potter, Harry had the choice and it was kind of close to a tie, but I'm sure there are plenty of people that think they belong places that they don't. Like Neville. Neville probably thought he should have been a Hufflepuff, and the hat's like, no, you're definitely a Gryffindor. Get your butt over there, you know?
Right. Well, and I wonder if there's a parallel to be drawn with, like, wizarding families and the fact that Jack is from a hockey family. And
Yeah, but his dad's like a total Gryffindor, and he's
Right.
like 0% Gryffindor.
yeah, Jack's not a Gryffindor. Aw.
Nope.
Oh, Jack. I just want to snuggle him up.
Yes, please.
So, I think that if the hat gave him the choice between Ravenclaw and Slytherin, I feel like Jack would pick Ravenclaw.
I mean, that's where I am.
No,
I don't know.
agree.
We can ask our Wellies
Yeah, we
again.
might have to.
Ask the fandom. All right, fandom. This is up to you. Also, come fight the four of us if you think Biddy's not a Hufflepuff. We'll be here waiting. I don't need these teeth.
I was about to say Ellie will lose all of her teeth for it.
These teeth aren't that great anyway. Whatever. Oh, we're fantastic. I can't help it. We're just delightful as a group.
And touch the sound of silence.
Okay, so let's move on to our sweet bro, our delightful coral reef, Justin Lorenzi.
I mean, he definitely gives us the most visible representation of anxiety in that we see him like hardcore having a panic attack at several points.
I think Okay, this is going to sound cruel. My favorite part about Ransom's panic attacks is Holster when Ransom is having panic attacks. Because Holster knows exactly what Ransom needs, which is to be left alone and not to be touched. And just
fucking right.
To just let him ride it out. And the level of protective that he is of him in the several times that we see Ransom have a panic attack, Holster is always there, always keeping an eye on him. And when someone actually does get too close to him, he physically throws a pie. And even, is it Dex or Nursey who comes up to him in another scene when it's either Dex or Nursey who asks, "Where's Ransom?" And Holster says, "Oh, he's crying under the table." Like, don't touch him. Holster's very specific about that he should not be touched. And I just appreciate that so much in their relationship. I ship Wholesome really hard.
I mean, I didn't ship Wholesome. And then I met you, Ellie. And then I read your stuff, and then I read everything that you told me to read, and then I ship Wholesome all of a sudden. And now I have so many feelings about literally the entire cast. It's terrible. I really appreciate also. I'm with you on how wonderful it is that Holster knows what his bro needs and is willing to give it to him. And it can be really difficult when you have someone that you care about who is going through something very hard to not try and take care of them in the best way that you know how to, and to try and take care of them in the best way that you know is going to work for them.
Yes, this is the platinum rule, teammates. This is do unto others as they fucking want you to do unto them. For real.
Yes.
Right.
I don't think the actual platinum rule has an F-bomb in it, but it's true.
It does. It does.
It's needed for emphasis.
Thank you. But, one of the things that helps me when I'm really struggling is to be touched and held. And for some people, being touched and held while they're struggling is a nightmare and awful. So
yeah, that's me, low-key.
So, and I actually imagine I had Canon Holster as one of those people who just needs people to touch him. But the fact that he doesn't do that, doesn't make that part of Ransom the way that he helps Ransom is their relationship, whether you ship them or whether you think they're queer platonic or just bros for life or whatever, I don't care. Their relationship is so pure and I just love them.
And it shows us a really good example, I think, of some of the good things like we're talking about that come from being in a relationship. It's not going to fix things. And I say in a relationship, I mean any sort of relationship where you have a support system in place, that these might be the things that Biddy ends up doing for Jack someday or something like that, where even if they can't fix it, there's still a support system in place to help you when you're having problems. And I think Ransom and Holster are a really good representation of that.
Yes, I completely agree. Well said, Kirsten. 10 more points to Ravenclaw. Look at you go.
What up?
Ravenclaw is going to win the Wellie Cup this time, guys. You Slytherins got to step it up.
Man.
TJ, my husband, is our sound guy, so he sits next to me silently, and he's also a Ravenclaw. He's doing a fist pump right now, so Kirsten, you've got some company.
Although here's the real question. Who awards points to you, Ellie? We need to be better about that.
I award points to myself.
Okay.
Right?
Because I don't want it to be one of those things where
honest about it.
I'm adorable and have a ridiculous accent, so I get 20 points.
Yes, you are.
That's true.
Yes, you do.
Auntie thinks I'm cute.
No, you're cute. Because I'm looking at your picture right now, and it's adorable. Also, the real problem here, guys, who's going to get points for Gryffindor?
Oh, Dex.
They've had it too good for too long. All I'm saying is they've had it too good for too long.
Yeah, they won the House Cup. like 6 years out of 7 in Harry Potter, so I don't
And
feel
like
bad.
most of them at the last minute because of Dumbledore. So
Yeah, I don't feel too bad. Sorry, Gryffindors. Your feelings are valid and important, but not during this podcast.
suck it.
Someday we'll have a Gryffindor on and we'll be very nice to them. Because,
We will!
Because you will be nice because you're a Hufflepuff, Ellie. And Kirsten, you will be nice because you're a nice human being and also it's a smart thing to do. And Steph and I will be nice and then stab them in the back. No, I'm just kidding.
You two will be nice to advance our podcast.
Yeah, we'll be quote unquote nice.
Nice.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And then I'll glare at you two. Be nice for real. And I'll say that in my little squeaky voice because that'll be helpful.
Naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more.
Okay, so one thing I want to say as we move on, I think it's fascinating that a lot of the boys on the team display some symptom of anxiety, and they show anxiety in such different ways. And anxiety is a very wide struggle that can come out in a bajillion different ways. And it's almost like Ngozi wanted to do a study on anxiety, and this is what happened.
Yes.
It just came out cocky flavored. Also, I almost said cocky flavored. And
You did say cocky flavored. I was like,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's
I think
what I
that's
heard
just
too.
Huddle, Ellie.
So Ngozi decided to do a study on anxiety, and it came out hockey flavored. And then our fan fiction came out cocky flavored. I ain't ashamed. What? Bring it.
No shame. So I'm with you. I kind of feel that way too.
Because you even have chowder. Oh, you go ahead, Kirsten.
Oh, sorry. I think some of it too. I work at a university, and we were just talking about this with back to school stuff. That like, college is a really big time in people's lives, where even people that may not have anxiety disorders face a lot of anxiety. I mean, they're going through a lot of crap emotionally and growing up and being on your own, and it's something that really happens a lot. All of a sudden, you're responsible for a lot of crap that you weren't before too.
Hashtag
And so I think that's a good way to
hard.
frame that. Like, college is hard.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think she definitely spends a lot of time talking about the varying ways that anxiety can manifest. And you were saying something about chowder, I think, Ellie?
Yes, even Biddy's precious infant son Chowder shows.
He gets younger and younger every day.
I know, it's so hilarious. When you read Biddy's tweets, he's like, my infant son. We're like, Chowder is what, like 6'1" or some nonsense, Biddy. What the, anyway. But
And
even
like a year
Chowder.
younger.
Yeah, exactly. Even Chowder has post-game, pre-game rituals, which in my mind come with some anxiety. Even it's probably just because I only played like little kid t-ball and don't understand sports rituals, but I see that as an anxiety piece, like having to take a nap on the horrible green couch and not touching pucks off the ice. That's a little bit anxiety flavored.
Some of
for
that's
me.
superstition, I think.
Yes.
But
Chowder's only a little stitious.
yeah.
I'm funny today.
You're funny every day.
Aww. Okay. What other feelings and or thoughts do we have?
Well, who did we want to talk about? We wanted to talk about Dex and Shitty, right?
Yeah, let's talk about Dex.
I didn't have anything in particular that I wanted to talk about with regards to Dex.
Yeah,
So-
I just know that he has a lot of repressed feelings. That's it.
I don't know that repressed feelings are diagnosable.
Not anymore, they're not.
That's going in the outtakes.
Touche, yeah.
Oh my god. Honestly, I think Dex I don't know that Dex really struggles with much. Obviously, he struggles with the anxiety of not getting along with Nurse, but those are relational struggles and
of liking
potentially liking boys.
cocky flavored things.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a headcanon. We don't know that Dex is secretly gay or bi or pan. Although I do love the incredibly common headcanon that Dex is trans, even though I don't think it's canon or going to be canon or what have you. I do love it. Keep writing that fan fiction, my friends.
You know what?
Same with whiskey.
Yes.
More of, because I feel like I have read a lot of F to M trans decks. I want some M to F trans decks.
Whoa, you just blew my mind. That would be really, really interesting. You know, I read a fic, or maybe it was like a Tumblr blurt, or like Tumblr mini fic. I don't know what to call it.
Tumblr blurt.
I'm going to call it a blurt. That's what your Tumblr fics are called from now on, everybody. Tumblr blurts. Where Biddy is trans, and Jack finds out, and he, like, is basically weeping because Biddy can't be on the hockey team anymore. And Shitty's like, no, you dumbass. Like, Jack. And he has to explain the whole thing. And Jack's like, oh, you mean he's already, oh. Because Jack is a ding-dong.
I've also seen a really good thing about Nursey being non-binary, and I love that a lot too.
Ooh, I love that too. And Lardo non-binary is also a favorite.
Ooh, I have never actually seen that, but I love that a lot. Wow.
You have to
That
read
is one of my favorites.
Kirsten's Fic Rec for this month. It's in there.
Yes.
That is one of my absolute favorite fics, by the way. That is not a terrible segue into our Fic Rec section. Shall we move forward?
Yes, I mean, unless we want to talk about somebody else, if we have missed anyone that you wanted us to talk about, please send us an ask or send us a message on Tumblr and let us know. And, we can always talk about it next time.
Yep, we're super happy to... We love talking about this stuff, so bring it on, teammates.
People talking without speaking. People hearing
So, for this month's fic recommendations, we, of course, focused on mental health and fan fictions that have mental health issues in them, which was pretty broad, but we went for it anyway. So, as usual, each of the four of us have chosen one special fan fiction for you, and we have also all together agreed on a sort of gold standard or really common or popular fic that we think you need to read, especially if you're newer in the fandom. So we're going to start with our lower rated fics, not rated as in goodness, but rated as in adultness fics first.
Okay, well,
Yes,
mine...
Steph, I think yours is first.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, mine's rated G, and it's on AO3, and it's called Your Fake Name is Good Enough for Me, and it's by user Double Negative. It's really good because it focuses on Shitty and Jack's platonic relationship and how they just support each other throughout the series, throughout their college experience. And I like it a lot because, again, it doesn't, like, Shitty's not fixing Jack's anxiety, and, like, Jack's not fixing Shitty either. But it also talks about Shitty's actual name, and I love that too because that's honestly the biggest mystery of this comic. So yeah,
It so is. This is a really brilliant fic. I congratulate you on your choice.
thank you very much.
Yes. I think I am next. My series is rated teen. So I have chosen for you a series called Stupid Words I Haven't Said. The first, it is written by Strange Towns, and both of the fics that are currently in the series are rated T. The first in the series is a Zimbits, and It's called The Advantage of Withholding Your Honesty, and the second of the series is called I Will Implode Without You Because I Know We'll Be All Right, and it's a wholesome. These fics are really fun and interesting because they're soulmate AUs, but they are not your typical soulmate AU. You find out pretty early in the first one that Biddy's soulmate is his mother, for example, and it really, really took the soulmate trope to another level, and Jack's anxiety put together with his soulmate situation they're just really beautifully written, and I hope that you go read them because they're great. So excellent work, Strange Towns.
And then I think I'm next because mine is also rated T. My Fic Rec this month is one particular fic in particular from a series. The fic's name is All I Need's a Whisper in a World That Only Shouts. It's by The One That Fell. And also it is in the series The Heaviness That I Hold in My Heart Belongs to Gravity. So this is a reasonably short fic, but it's focused on Biddy having a panic attack. In particular because there are some very large and boisterous frat bros, that are sort of crowding him into a corner, and he just kind of loses it and texts the whole team an SOS on the team chat. And they come rescue him from the situation and take care of him, but in a really non-intrusive way, and they ask if it's okay for them to touch him and what he needs. And I thought it was really affirming and lovely in that way. And also, I appreciated that he thinks that he's okay for a minute, and then he's really, really not. And sometimes it's just how it is. And, sometimes you read fics where there are panic attacks or anxiety symptoms, and people just get over them so quickly, and it just doesn't work that way most of the time. So I really like this fic a lot. So go read it.
Okay, then. So I think mine is last because it is rated mature. It's Exhumed Pursued by Heteronormativity by... I have no idea how you pronounce their username, honestly.
You can spell it out.
Yeah, I'm just gonna spell it. I don't want to mess that up. It's PSOCOPTERA.
I think it's
Socoptera. Yeah, Socoptera. I think
something
it's a
like
silent
that.
P.
I hoped it was, because otherwise I was just screwed pronunciation-wise. So, yeah. Thank you. I'm terrible at sounding out words that I don't already know. But this one kind of focuses on, it's a more shitty-centric piece, and it kind of focuses on the idea of him having anxiety, which I am, all here for. But basically, he and Lardo and Jack and Biddy go on a road trip together after the end of Jack and Chitty's senior year. And it's really interesting. It's really interesting to me because it kind of provides this perspective of Shitty's really focused in this one about making sure everyone else is happy. And you kind of see in the background, though, that because he's so anxious, his friends and everyone are gathering around him to kind of make sure he's doing okay. And it's this really good, mutual affection, mutual understanding of each other sort of fic. And I am very fond of it. So, yeah.
I also want to say about this fic, it's one of my absolute favorites, and it portrays polyamory in a really
interesting way.
Interesting way, and more accurate as to sort of how it works in real life. Although I rarely hear of people going on a road trip and then, okay, I won't ruin it for you guys because it's a beautiful fic. But I read a lot of fic that's tagged as poly where it's I think we should all kiss. Yes. I would like to kiss both of you. Perfect. Let's be poly together. And then, which, I mean, there's a place for that, but polyamory is already so widely misunderstood that I really appreciate this particular fic and its exploration of the nuances of a multi-person relationship. So, cheers.
And that every relationship can be really distinct, and that what you get out of every relationship can be really distinct. And that it's not all about the threesomes. It is not all about the threesomes.
Lord, so true. So true.
You find a place for it.
That goes in the Wellie after dark.
Sorry.
Okay, so we've come to our very last fic, which is the one we agreed was one you should definitely read.
Good.
It's so good. Team,
God.
this month, we would like you to check out.
If you haven't read it, if you're one of
haven't
people who haven't read it.
Right. If you are one of those people, you need to read Being in Motion by Strange with Ghosts, because it is magnificent. I think the part that's really sold me on this as our choice for this month is that there's a part of this fic where Jack and Biddy have a really frank discussion about whether or not Jack should up his medication. And they have a really, really frank discussion about it, and it's just like no shame and really logical, and it's just beautiful. And for a fic that's legit about Biddy being a vid boy, it's really, really impressive.
Like, people with mental health disorders have sex too.
What?
I know!
Crazy talk.
I have never heard of this. What is this sex you speak of?
I mean, if you really want me to explain it to you, Ellie, we can do that after.
The Birds and the Bees episode of the Wellie.
It's all done like a class for chowder.
Oh my gosh. Probably no one else watches Steven Universe, but there are these fun little clips of the crystal gems, like teaching Steven things in a classroom. And I just picture like tiny, tiny little hockey boys teaching, oh my god, just like hockey shit with Ransom and Holster, but they're chibis, like chibis.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I want to draw it now. I really want to.
Steph, will you do that thing?
I will try. My art skills need to get better, but I will try.
This is a great thing to practice on.
People writing songs that voices never share.
Speaking of practicing, something that requires a lot of practice is real hockey.
Woo! Real hockey!
Woo.
We're all so excited.
We're all so excited. So, it's time to check in and find out what's been going on in the world of real-life ice hockey. Steph, tell us what's happening in the world of real-life ice hockey.
Our resident
Nothing! Yay! Well, there was like training camps a while back, but now there's just nothing until October. So,
Aww.
gotta wait a bit.
Well,
But
there
it's
you have
soon.
it, folks. There's nothing happening in real-life ice hockey in this moment. Back to you, Chip. Just
Who's
kidding.
Chip in this situation?
I don't know. I'm just
Andy,
trying to
you're
be a
Chip now.
sportscaster.
Okay. I don't know what your name is. As a sportscaster.
I don't know. Just make up a really bro-y name. Chip is a sportscaster name.
Dale.
Yes. Perfect. See, you're good at this.
Chip and
All
Dale.
right. Now, oh my god. Now we all need like sportscaster OCs.
Oh my god, yes. Sportscaster AU. Okay, so good thing we talked about hockey.
No one dare disturb the sound of silence.
Okay, so our recipe this time is we were thinking that we'd want something anxiety themed or at least mental health themed. And one of the big things that you have to worry about a lot of times, as we probably all very well know here, is the days when everything sucks and you don't want to move and you're wearing clothes that you've been wearing for 3 days and you still haven't showered and everything's terrible, but you still somehow need to eat, which is the worst.
Don't know anything about this.
Right.
I have no experience with this.
Oh, God. Okay. So I basically survived when I was in college back in the day on those random treats that you see like on BuzzFeed and stuff about make whatever you can in a mug because you don't have dishes or time. And I felt like that would be a really good recipe. So I've got what might even be a Jack approved mug recipe here because it's full of protein and happiness. And we will include a link to that and some pictures at the bottom of this post or as a separate post when we post this. But it is a mug cake that has egg, banana, cocoa powder, and peanut butter. And that's like literally it. That's all you need to make this thing. And it's beautiful because it's not too sweet. It can be breakfast. It can be dinner if it has to be, you know. Right? Oh, yeah. And you can definitely add in stuff if you want to throw like some chocolate chips or like some dried fruit in there. My husband insists that it needs sugar. It may. Honestly, it's very adaptable. I don't do a lot of sugar, so everything tastes sweeter than it probably is to me. So if y'all try this and it's terrible, try throwing in a little sugar and see how that works. It depends on how ripe your bananas are too, whether your peanut butter's sweetened, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm all about the no extra sugar, but so I can't really comment on maybe being too not sweet.
But it's also pretty adaptable. I mean, I actually make mine a lot of the time without the egg in it, and it's just got banana and cocoa powder and peanut butter and sometimes a little bit of flour to kind of bind that stuff up a little. But if you're allergic to eggs, like I am, it works pretty well. It's better with the egg. Again, I'm getting the taste testing from my husband on this one properly. It's better with the egg. But still, you can kind of do it up how you want with random stuff that you probably have on hand.
Yeah.
Like the bananas that you bought a week and a half ago and forgot to use or cut up, and now they're turning brown. They're great for this.
Well, I mean, one great thing about this, though, is for all the gluten-free people out there.
Yeah, that's
true. It's a gluten-free recipe.
And dairy-free, because I am also dairy-free, because I'm hardcore lactose intolerant. I mean, I sometimes eat it, and then I hate myself. But for the most part, I'm dairy-free.
Awesome. Well, that sounds super duper amazing, and I'm really excited to try it because I loves me eating some stuff in a mug. So thank you, Kirsten.
And it takes like a minute to cook.
Yes.
It's the dream.
Favorite.
I'm also really impatient, so that's perfect.
I'm really lazy.
Lazy and impatient.
Mm-hmm. And I have no time.
Fool said I, you do not know. Silence like a cancer grows.
So before we close out this Wellie podcast this month, we wanted to talk really quickly about a little submission we got. We wanted to do a shout out about it because we were so excited. So excited. So one of our lovely fans, they made an AO3 account just so they could post a little fic that they wrote for us. It's called Home Baking, and the author is Kushi Kutaru Kuroko, which is a lot of consonants. And the summary is, Chowder comes home moody and Biddy decides to do something about it. And it's really sweet and lovely. And it's about what happens if Chowder won a shark plushie at a fair, or maybe somebody else won a shark plushie at a fair. So you should definitely go check it out. It's so cute. And give them some props.
Absolutely, because we love us some fanfic and fan art. We really just love everything that has to do with OMGCP. So bring it on, my friends. We will promote your work if we inspire it. That is, I think we can make that promise.
Certainly.
It's like the least we can do because that's amazing.
If you write us that Sound of Music, or if you write us basically anything about musical theater,
Yeah, bring it on.
I'll sing your praises. Literally, I will sing them.
Literally, there will be singing because we cannot
Yes.
be stopped.
Yeah, it will be great.
All right, teammates. Thank
We
you
should have
so
a
much.
musical episode, like Once More with Feeling.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Hamilton. I am not throwing away my shot.
My words that I might teach you. Take my arms that I might reach you. But my words, like silent raindrops, fell.
We ran a little bit long this month, Wellies. So rather than go into great depth about our coping mechanisms, we're just going to all quickly list off a favorite or two and send in your favorite coping mechanisms so we can all share.
And I'm going to share the few coping mechanisms that people did send to us. So that will be good too.
All right. Do you want to share those now?
Yes, I do want to share those now. Okay, so Anonymous said, I've had anxiety and depression my whole life, and my favorite coping mechanisms are listening to the Harry Potter movie soundtracks while focusing on my breathing and getting out into nature and walking around, enjoying the beauty for a little while, if I'm up to it. Also Tumblr, smiley face. Well said, Anonymous. I think those are amazing coping skills. Leaning on Harry Potter is always a good decision. Also, nature is scientifically proven to make you feel better, and walking is even better than nature. So well done.
Exercise.
Yes, exercise is wonderful for you. All right, our next person said, coping mechanisms, deep breathing, 5 senses, mindfulness, breaking things into microscopic pieces, and calling a friend.
Also great coping mechanisms.
Yes, as long as the things you're breaking into pieces are yours and are okay to break into pieces. Because we can't support breaking other people's things or breaking things that would be dangerous to break or breaking things that are very important to you.
Or Breaking Bad.
Boom.
So those are some of the submissions we've already received. So if you have other submissions, please feel free to send them to us. So now we will share some of our own coping mechanisms. One of my favorite coping mechanisms is singing really, really loudly, especially in the car, or just turning on my headphones really loud and having that experience. Another coping mechanism I like is I have a very, very heavy blanket, and I like to be under my very, very heavy blanket. It makes me feel happy and cozy.
Okay, I'll go next. Yeah, I'm with you on the whole music thing. I like blasting music and singing in general. Not really singing loudly because I am terrible at singing loudly. So I like to sing well, in my opinion, as well as I can sing. And then, like one of our fans said, Tumblr is really good. Just fandom stuff in general. Just immersing myself in another world.
Well said.
Okay, so I think this is really interesting because you guys are talking about singing and music, and for me, I can't do music when I'm anxious. Like, it needs to be silent or else things go bad for me very quickly. Just random side note, that's cool. I usually opt for, like, really strong scented lotion or, like, really intense mint, like something that's going to really activate my senses and distract me when things are going bad. Or blankets too. I am recording from underneath a heating blanket right now because I feel safe and happy, and that's a really good one.
I really like petting my cat a lot when I'm upset, which is, I mean, I'm laughing, but it's proven that animals and petting them lower your stress. So everybody should get a cat. So yeah, cats, good coping mechanism.
Undine, coping mechanism, cats. I love it so much. You're so precious. It hurts me. I love it. Okay, so now we've discussed coping mechanisms, so we can leave you all with good suggestions of things to do if you are struggling. Teammates, it's been a wonderful episode. We hope that it hasn't been too difficult for you, and We will see you next month.
Prophets are written on the subway walls, tenement halls, whispered sounds of silence.
Thanks for listening to The Wellie, a Check Please fan podcast. Leave us a review on iTunes and find us on Tumblr at The Wellie Podcast to see the links to our fic recommendations and recipes, and to send us requests, suggestions, and your Muma's best recipes. A huge thank you to TJ, who wrote our wonderful theme song. And special thanks to Ngozi for her excellent webcomic. See you next time, team.
I'm Undine.
I'm Kirsten.
I'm Steph.
And I'm Ellie.
And
Thanks
this
for
is
listening.
the Wellie.
And the Wellie.
We're never gonna get that right.
It's
We
fine.
do it worse every time.
Oh, we're adorable.
Yes, you are.
Aw. You are. Who showers, right?
Well, I mean,
I'm a chinchilla.
Dust baths everywhere.
Yep.
See, Kirsten gets me.
there
I
are
got
plans
you.
in the works, Kirsten. Ellie, we're getting you a dust bath.
Yes.
Merry Christmas. Early Christmas.
Yes.
Hashtag blessed.
Are you
Kirsten.
muted?
Where'd you go?
Kirsten. Oh, we lost her.
It's like I can still hear her. Shit, I really can't. Dang
Yeah,
it.
me neither.
All right. Skype. Let's see what's up. Oh, yep, she's gone.
I can't
Bad
believe
people.
Kirsten freaking died.
I'm Undine.
I'm Kirsten.
Steph. Steph, are you there?
I can't believe Steph is dead.
Oh, I forgot to hit unmute when I was
Okay.
perfect, going right in the outtakes. I was like, guys, what's
I
happening?
can't believe Steph is dead. All right.
Okay,
Let's try it again.
one more time
So-
with feeling.